Good evening, everyone. We thank you all for joining us this week on our edition of the Preacher's Circle. We're asking as you come in that you will share, like, subscribe, invite others, tag 3-4 people to come in, tag your family, your friends, whomever to come in and join us on tonight. We're excited for our guests on tonight. We're excited for our podcast on tonight, and we're looking forward to what's going to be discussed on tonight. So come on in and like and enjoy. I am excited about our conversation on tonight. Our conversations, I believe, is going to be life-changing on tonight. So as you come in, tag, share, invite others to join us even now. Invite others to join us even now. As you're coming in, once again, we're asking that you will share, like, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know where you're tuning in from even now. We're going to give you all a few more seconds to tune in. Come on in. All right, so as we get started on tonight, once again, I'm Elder Henry Scott, and we would like to welcome you all to the Preacher's Circle. I'm excited for tonight and our discussion and what's going to be said and shared on tonight. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our guest. Special guest on tonight is Miss Charisma Hazel. We're excited about our connection and where we came from. And so I'm going to let her share a little bit about herself even now as we coming in, as the rest of you all are coming in. She's going to introduce herself, and then we're going to hop into our subject for tonight. So Charisma, tell the people a little bit about yourself and where you're from and your career, so they may know who is Miss Charisma Hazel. No problem. And I'm grateful that you accept the invitation to join us on tonight. And so with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and open up our discussion on tonight. Wanted to talk about the mind and just how powerful it is, just how influential it is in our daily lives, even with our thoughts, the words we say, how we carry ourselves, how we look at certain things. And even in this time with the pandemic going on, the coronavirus, and being able to just be in control of our minds with everything that is going on around us, we realize that at times we don't have control of what's going on. We don't have control of how things are happening, when things are happening, where things are happening, and it can make us get in our mind a lot. And so I wanted to just hop on there and just talk about just the mind and how powerful it is, because I feel like nowadays, especially within the church setting, we may not take it as serious as we ought to. We may not take it out as serious as we ought to, because when we look at it and we think about it, we say, okay, God can do anything, which is true, but we also have to understand that God created therapists for a reason, that God created people to help us, talk things out and discuss things for a reason. And so I wanted to bring you on so that we can just discuss that, and I guess lay down the notion of that at times, because we have God, we don't need a therapist, which, I had to learn, and I'm admitting as well. I thought that for a while. And I realized that it's okay to have a therapist. It's okay to have somebody to talk to and to discuss things with. So with that being said, how do you feel like this pandemic has impacted our mind, influenced our mind even now, and just discuss your feelings about being in this moment, especially with our mindset and how we should think about things and go about things?
Yeah, so the pandemic has caused a lot, right? We actually in the profession we saw a lot of increase in like anxiety and in depression because the pandemic forced us to sit down and kind of confront some things, for us to kind of confront ourselves. Like we had to have some areas that we had to address and we had to highlight, we had to be more aware of. And so to that point, the pandemic has really made us more aware of those areas, which has honestly kind of increased some depressive thoughts. It has caused some low self esteem. It has caused some excessive worrying. Or even for some, it's caused some racing thoughts, always feeling keyed up, always feel like they have to do something. I'm at home, I'm sitting down, and I just don't feel productive, right? So I have to do something. I don't have a sense of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
a sense of like, I am contributing to the world. And so we most definitely saw an increase in that. People began to feel hopeless, just kind of understanding about the virus. Of course, they're worried about catching it, and then if I caught it and I'm sick and I'm worried about my life, and then the vaccine, choosing whether or not to get the vaccine. So we saw a lot. We saw a lot, and we're still experiencing that. We're still experiencing that. And so with our mind, again, it has caused us to maybe think some derogatory thoughts towards ourselves. It's caused us to
Hmm.
maybe um, feel as if we're hopeless. And there's a lot of self guilt there as well. Again, when we had to kind of confront ourselves and or other people, we may not have really known how to do that. We may not have really gone about that the right way. A lot of people experience a lot of grief, whether it be of a job, whether it be of a friendship, so we most definitely seen an increase again in anxiety and in depression, and with our minds, we had to have learned to what's called thought stop, and sometimes we don't necessarily know how to do that.
And that is very much true. And you said a lot just in that opening statement and answer to that question. The first thing that you said that caught my attention, where you said that we had to confront a lot of things. We had to confront even ourselves, and this, to me, it woke us up. It definitely woke us up. It woke us up to realize that who we thought we were, that we weren't. We definitely weren't. But also who we thought we knew where what we thought we knew we wanted to do. This challenged us, and it made us take a step back and to say, okay, I know that I may not have, I may have the best job or think I have the best job, but is this really what I want to do? Is this the career field I really want to go in? So it was like a self check, a self evaluation to say, okay, am I doing what I wanted to do, what I desire to do. And to me, one of the greatest things is seeing all the businesses that were created and birthed out during this season. Even now, that's continued to be birthed out. The artists that are coming out with different songs and books that are coming out, and just things that are brought into our horizon to say that it will, like, it is vital for us to answer, as far as when it comes down to saying, okay, um what am I, who am I, and being able to say, okay, that even though I thought I knew who I was, that's not the case. That's not the case. And so, we allow those mindsets to take control and root over us. And so I believe that we need to go back and redo some things, undo some things, in order for us to get to the place where we are able to accomplish a lot.
Right.
And so, I believe that first start with our mind. If we can get our mind together, then everything else will follow. Will follow along. And so, with that being said, and us getting our thoughts together and our mind together, what do you feel like, maybe our best way to go about this?
Yes. So, one of the first things to do is, and I love to teach clients this, right? We have a modality of treatment in therapy, and within that particular modality of treatment, there is an aspect called mindfulness, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness just basically says that your thoughts are seeds, okay, and your mind is soil, which is, as we know, synonymous with scripture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, whatever you plant in your mind is going to grow out, right? And so, it's going to grow out, um, and maybe an attitude. It's going to grow out and maybe self guilt that you're
Mm-hmm.
worthless. It's going to grow out and increase irritability. And so, one of the first things that you can do is, obviously, if you feel like you are having some challenges in that area, go talk to somebody, right? Go talk to a therapist, get some coping skills together, help them, let them help you kind of process through, and help you apply some day-to-day skills that can help you. The other piece of that is be mindful of what you're saying to you. Be mindful, very mindful of what you're saying to you. um, be very mindful of what you allow others to say. There's a difference between processing what someone says and then internalizing what someone says, right? And so, if you tell me, Charisma, I feel like you are the most dramatic, extra person, and you just are like the worst of the worst, okay? I can process what you said, which means I heard you, but that doesn't mean that I need to internalize that, which means I don't have to carry that. I don't have to carry that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can then say, this doesn't belong to me. That
Mm-hmm.
title does not belong to me, or
Mm-hmm.
these characteristics that you're putting on me does not belong to me. So again, I would suggest that, one, go talk to someone. Two, be very mindful of what you're saying to yourself. Be very mindful of what you're allowing other people to say.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I teach my clients that I love the most is self affirmation.
There you go.
Self affirmations. Say them in the morning, right? Say them in the evening. Pin them up around your wall. In my home office, I have a wall dedicated to self affirmations. So every time I go into my office, I have no other choice but to have those affirmations visible, to have those affirmations, um, you know, there, so that way I can be reminded at any given moment that this is my true identity.
And that's true. I believe self affirmation is, it goes a long way. It goes a long way because it help us to understand that at times we can't always listen to what other other people are saying, and because sometimes what we think may be them encouraging us and building us up, it may not come off that way, and it may come off as them saying it, but they're not really meaning it. They're just saying it just to say it, And so when we think about it, we allow it at times to get us discouraged because we're like, okay, these people supposed to be here for us, but they're not. They're talking about us, or they're saying we're this or we're that. When we have to say, okay, despite what they are saying, I know who I am. I know who I am. I am this. I am strong. I am, I am this person, and I have accomplished this and that. Just because they may not see it in that manner, just because they may not realize it or acknowledge it, it doesn't mean that that's not the case. You know.
But see, the key thing, or well, allow me to express that. One of the things that I notice is that sometimes we can know who we are. Like we know what to say, but we necessarily don't feel it. Um, and there's a sense of hesitancy. There's a sense of um, resistance there to fully believe that we are who we are
Mhm.
necessarily.
Mhm.
And so that's where um, some of those coping skills kind of come into play. Again, the self affirmation, starting your day off intentionally, confessing. I always tell people, say it until you feel it.
Mhm.
Even if you don't feel it, it's okay. Say it because again, what are you doing? You're planting
Plan.
those seeds in your mind, so
Mhm.
that way those feelings can actually grow up. And so if you don't fully feel confident or fully feel like, yes, I am strong. Yes, I am, who God has made me to be. Yes, I am fearless and yes, I'm confident. Yes, I'm whole. Yes, I'm beautiful. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. And enjoy the process. And if I can actually add to that, choose to enjoy your process of becoming stronger within you. And so to kind of circle back to your initial question, Henry, one of the main things that we had to accept when the pandemic first started was we have to choose to enjoy this process and we have to choose to allow ourselves to be more confident within ourselves.
And that's a big thing there. When you talk about enjoy the process,
Mhm.
because many times when it comes down to process, we're always looking for, um, we're always looking for the answer to everything. We want to know when we're coming out of this. We want to know how long it's going to be, when it's going to be, how it's going to happen, where it's going to happen at. And sometimes, bringing it back to the Christian realm, sometimes God may not let us know when it's going to happen. He just want to see, and we're going to have the faith to believe that we're coming out of this very thing. And I believe, with self affirmation, you said something key when you talked about how speaking things until we see it. We have to speak it and keep speaking it until we see it. You have to see it before you see it. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Because if you don't see yourself there, you can't expect to see anybody else. You can't for anybody else. You can't expect anybody else, there you go, to see what you're trying to see. And so what happens at times is we begin to talk ourselves down because we aren't seeing it.
Right.
We're not seeing it how God spoke it to us. We're not seeing it how our mind is telling us it's going to be. And that's okay. But we have to know that we have to keep speaking it until we see it. And as we're speaking it, it's going to increase our faith. It is going to increase our belief. It's going to increase even ourselves personally, because we realize that, okay, I don't see it right now, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. That doesn't mean that it's not taking place. But it is. It's just happening in God's time. And I believe, Charisma, that if we can continue to get to that place of speaking, and until we see it, I believe it will help our mind, because we won't stress out about it. We won't worry about it as much, but we will begin to believe and say, God, I know that this is going to take place. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm believing you that it will happen. And so because I'm believing that it will happen, I'm going to continue to encourage myself and say, you're going to make it through this. You're going to come out of this better. Things are going to get better. When you come out of this, you're going to look back on it and say, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But you have to start somewhere. And you have to start with encouraging yourself and building yourself up as, your mentality. And as you get in your mentality, everything else will follow after that. Everything else will flow from that. And so I believe that our mindset is very important in confronting things and facing things that we need to deal with. It will help it out as well. Will help it out as well. And so with that being said, my next question to you is that how as you growing up, how did you learn how to basically get to that place of being able to speak it and encourage yourself despite what you were seeing? Despite what you were seeing.
So, one, I would say that, and I'm sorry, I have my headphones. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So first thing first, I would say that it's a continual process. It's an ongoing process. You always, your faith or your belief, your confidence, all of that. It's a continual process. It continually grows. So first thing that I had to learn was allow myself the grace to grow. The grace to say, I might not be strong in this area, or I may not feel like I'm as confident, or it's hard for me to believe when I see X, Y, and Z. And I had to allow myself to be truthful with myself and to be honest with in that space, because that's a real space. Um, I've grown up in church all my life. I'm a King Phillips kid. I'm a King Phillips grandkid. I understand all of that. But what it had to boil down to was relationship with self, and then relationship with God as well. So again, allowing myself the grace was the first step. And then two, it takes a discipline. It takes a discipline. It takes a mind training. There has been many of times where I just sat in silence. I sat in silence. I've meditated. I just listen. Just as much as you pray, you need to spend the same amount of time listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. I just had to literally like just sit with myself, literally again allow myself to grace, allow myself to feel, and continue to say it. Continue to say it. I am a big fan, a huge fan of visioning, and so I would literally vision and imagine what does that feel like? What kind of demeanor will I have? What does that look like? And then, of course, expressing gratitude for those moments and for those spaces. But again, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a very tough process. It's a very tough process because, again, you're confronting yourself. And then you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to you. So most definitely, again, grace. Allow yourself the grace and be truthful, and then be disciplined in your regimen. Be disciplined in your thoughts. Again, if you're meditating, if you're sitting in silence, if you're having prayer time, if you're setting out a time of the day to just say some positive things, be consistent with that. And then again, allow yourself that silence to just sit and allow instruction to come to you.
And that's good because I feel that with how life is, we don't give ourselves that space to just sit and to just take a moment out and say, okay, I need to find some way to maybe hear from God and hear what He's saying, hear how He's who He's calling me and what He's saying to me. Also, I feel that because of the busyness of our days, we really don't. We just don't take the time out for ourselves. We just go until we are burnt out, until we have no more left in us. We don't have any gas. We're snappy with people. We're frustrated with people. We are we're trying to figure out what's going on. Why are we feeling this way? And the key to it may be just that we're burnt out. And we need to take a moment and say,
so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Yeah, burnout is real.
Really real.
It's really real. And when we take the time out to just sit down and just say, okay, let me decompress. Let me get my thoughts together. Let me breathe, woosah. Let me, just have my moment, have my time, give me my 10, 15 minutes or however long you may have. Then I feel like we can go from there and get to a place of being able to then not just process our thoughts, but to understand our thoughts. Understand it and get to a place of saying, okay, yeah, I may not have been thinking correctly because I was burnt out. I may not have seen things the way I should have seen it because I was stressed, I was worried, I was anxious. It was a lot going on. So now I can really take the time out and gather my thoughts.
And say that, yeah. Like, one of the biggest, hottest phrases right now in this profession is self-care, right? Self-care. And so one of the things that we really pushed was, especially during this pandemic, was you need to learn how to self-care. And the response that we got was, well, what is that? What is that? And that's a real question because we've been so accustomed to I use this analogy. We've been so accustomed to setting ourselves on fire for everyone else to make everyone else warm, and we're burning up.
Yeah.
And so the best definition that I can give for self-care would be it is an activity, it is something that you do or something that you say that replenishes you, that brings you joy. It replenishes you. And, in therapy, we teach multiple coping skills. There are thousands of coping skills that, we try to work with our clients with to say, hey, does this one fit good for you? Do you feel like you're having fun? Do you feel like you have achieved, some pleasure and some joy? And, they're like, no. We're like, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and maybe try this one, right? And so, when you said that you have, you sit with yourself, decompress. Decompress is self-care. For some people, that looks like just sitting in silence. For some people, maybe a self-care activity is gardening, or maybe a self-care activity is, playing an instrument, or writing, or journaling, or coloring. You'll be very, very surprised how well art and art therapy goes, because it's like it takes your mind off of your immediate situations, but it pours back into you. And so that's definitely something that I would most definitely recommend, is finding a self-care activity learn to do a self-care activity daily. Because again, the energy that you pour out, the fire that you're setting yourself on for everything else, whether it be for someone else, whether it be for a job, whether it be, for a position, whatever it is, you're going to have to get that energy back. And I always tell people one of the main things you don't want to do, okay, which causes burnout, is pour from an empty cup.
Hmm. Hmm.
Pour from an empty cup. If this water bottle right here, as it's full, if I pour all of this out, obviously there's not going to be any water in there. But if I keep going and I don't stop to say I need to go fill this up, I'm going to be pouring the little droplets, right? The little drips that come out. Who then pours and fills this water bottle up? It has to be you. It has to be you. And so again, my suggestion is find a self-care activity and try to do it. Try to do it daily. I love to tell people, have something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have something to look forward to. Whether it's like, man, I get off work at 5 o'clock and I'm gonna go home, put my feet up, and watch my favorite TV show. That's something to look forward to. Or maybe it's, okay, it's almost Friday, it's the end of the week. I'm going to go get my favorite ice cream cone, or I'm going to take myself out to dinner, I'm going to get my favorite restaurant. Again, having something to look forward to, so that way that helps you push.
And that is key, because when you look at it, doing that and just getting out and having time for yourself is definitely vital. I can admit, I didn't always understand that. Did not, I always thought that you had to go. If you weren't busy, you weren't doing anything. If you weren't busy,
But I believe, not to cut you off,
No.
we're conditioned, like we're socialized
Yes.
like that, to be like, if you're not busy, you're not being productive. Like, no, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to say no.
yeah, and that's the crazy thing. When you said that, it took us back to the days at Central State, which both of us were there during the same time, and just knowing how we both was part of the band, and just knowing how we used to go, like we was conditioned to just go all the time, and there was no stopping in us. There was no stopping, and so when we were going with the band, we just kept on going. We didn't have no thing. We didn't have it. And I believe I might have lost it there again. Hold on for a second. Let us get it back. Hold on. If While we're doing that, if you all have any questions, please feel free to send it in. Um, there you go. If you have any questions, please send questions. You're back?
I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. They just kicked me out.
Wow. Okay.
God. I'm back.
All right. Well, I was saying before we lost you there, I was saying that it just reminded me of how when we was at Central State and we were on the band, how we would just go. We was conditioned to go. Like we did not. We were. I mean, from long days and long nights, from PT to even like during band camp, from PT to morning practice to lunch to evening practice. It was like a consistent go. We was conditioned to go, and even for me, coming out of that, it was still hard for me to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard for me to slow down because I'm like, I'm used to going. I'm used to being up early in the morning. I'm used to, being on the road. You going to this performance, going to this game, and after that, it was like, what happens when the music stopped? When band practice stopped? What to do now? You know,
Yeah, it was an adjustment. It was an adjustment.
and so it's just funny because it reminded me that even then we didn't know nothing about taking time for ourselves. All thing we knew was the Invincible Marching Marauders. Day in and day out. That's what we did. We had, of course, we went to school, we went to classes. That's what we were there for, to get our degrees and stuff. But our timer was just IMM all day long. And so once I graduated, I'm like, what I'm gonna do now? I ain't gonna have band to run to it and do all times of day and night and practice this and rehearsal and performance. Now I have to sit down. I have to sit down and say, okay, Henry, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? And that's a vital question.
That's not always the easiest process. Not at all. That's not always the easiest process. One of the things that we do have as a diagnosis in the profession is called adjustment disorder. And so when there is some type of adjustment that has been made, i.e., maybe you like recently lost your job and you're trying to adjust to how to maneuver and navigate through life, or if you're switching environments, right? We have a diagnosis called adjustment disorder, and what it says is that during these 6 months, you're experiencing X, Y, and Z, but hopefully with the progress that you'll make in treatment, your symptoms will decrease. And I think that it's such kind of an underrated diagnosis, simply because there's so many adjustments that we go through in life that causes us to have so many mental health symptoms. It causes us to have the sadness. It causes us to have, maybe low mood, lack of energy, or maybe it causes us increased irritability because we're really frustrated about our situation and we don't know how to properly express that, right? And so it is a whole thing. Again, as you adjust and as you transition through life, it's okay that you experience some of these emotions and you experience some of these symptoms, because here's the thing: you've never been in that space before, and that's where I tell people you need to give yourself grace.
Grace, yeah.
Because you've never been in that space before. Because when you say that to someone else who's like, man, I recently just lost my job for the first time and I don't know even like what this looks like. Normally you'll give an encouraging word like, oh, it's okay, you're going to be okay. You'll get through this. You're going to figure it out. Right? You're going to figure it out because you don't have the plan already.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this is new to you.
Yeah.
And so, again, once you allow yourself that grace and that space to be like, man, ooh, okay, then you can kind of think a little bit clearly and make some more kind of rational and logical decisions.
Yeah. And I believe, giving yourself that space and that grace is key, because I think that then it opened up the door for grace to be extended in different areas of our life, because then we will understand what it is, and even in those moments, we find ourselves in those adjustment periods, once again, learning about ourselves and what we like and don't like, understanding what we've been, our purpose in life, our assignment, whether it's in, the spiritual realm, or the natural realm, just learning what we have been created to do and fulfill. And I believe in that moment it is an awakening. But not only that, I believe it is scary at some point, because for many of us, we have already came up with this idea of saying, this is how my life is. By 22, I'm gonna own this kind of dog, I'm gonna drive this kind of car, have this kind of house, being at this kind of job, making 6-7 figures, because I know what I want to do. And then you come to realization, nah, by the time I'm this age, this ain't happening. This house I'm is not happening. This dog, this car, this job is not happening. So what do you do then?
Yeah.
What do you do then? What question do you ask yourself then? Because you're like, what I thought I was going to have at this age, nah, nah. And it could have been in our case where we might have mismanaged some moments. It could have been a case where we were not even walking into the purpose of what God maybe have ordained for us, or what we thought God had ordained for us. So now we have to go back to the drawing board. And I believe for many of us, we don't know where to start at with the drawing board. Because we're 25 now, we're 30 now, we're 31 now, we're 32. So everything we thought was based off of a 10-year plan of 10 years ago. Which is funny. It's based off a 10-year plan, which is, the 10 years has passed us. So what do we do now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's real.
And so it's like, what do we do now? Which this pandemic has helped us out. Because it answered a lot of questions that we never thought that we would have to face or deal with. Even with our mental state, our physical state, our financial state, our emotional state, our spiritual state, it helped us to deal with parts of ourselves that we try to, hide, make hidden, and I believe that has kind of held us back from mentally being there. Because we realized this is something that we thought we had together, and we didn't. We did not,
And then here's to that point. It's okay. It's okay that you did not have it together. It's okay that you're coming into this awareness moment, into this awareness space. It's okay that you might have shut this piece out, or you might have blocked this piece out, whether it was inadvertently, or rather you chose to do that. It's okay. But the beauty about that is that even in this pandemic, it has caused us to recreate and redefine ourselves. And we have a choice now to be better, really set our lives on a path that we feel like is feasible and acceptable to us.
Yeah.
And so again, that is the beauty about this piece. And you're not gonna know everything. You're not gonna know everything. But again, it's a process, and it's a continual process. And so to your point, when you have these lists of things that you're supposed to do within the next 10 years, and you didn't do it, and maybe you're not on that path. Today's a new day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be another new day, and you can start that. And here's the thing: you can choose to enjoy your process. Henry, I'm not gonna lie. There's some things that I'm like, man, by this age, I'll be 30 in a few months. Oh my God. right? And so I'm like, I wanted to have this by 30. I wanted to be that by 30. And I wanted to be here. And, we might see other people around us accomplishing the
Mm-hmm.
spaces that we wanted to be in by 30. And I had to sit with myself and be like, okay, this is my process.
Yeah.
And I have to trust my process. And I had to let go of the stipulations and the limits that honestly I put on myself.
Yeah.
Because had I would have received what everything was on my list was for 30, I would not be kind of in the space of the space that I'm at, or the space that I'm in. I honestly would have limited myself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so I now am grateful that maybe I didn't choose this path. Maybe I did, and I didn't get here by this certain time because I choose to trust my particular process. And so that's what you have to do. You have to be confident. And listen, it's all about freedom. People come to my office, people come to therapy in general because they want to be free.
Yeah.
Whether it's free from others or free from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to deal with the limits and the limitation that they feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, again, as you give yourself that grace and you allow yourself to be free, I think that you will begin to have a better mind, to have a better thought process, and to love yourself more.
And and that is key when it comes down to our mental state and being free. I believe that we have been bound by things that the world have told us, but not just the world, the things that we see on TV. How we have it has given us this false advertisement of this how it should be, and if you don't have it this way, then something wrong with you. you know, Not saying that everybody else has their own process. And how I got to the place that I'm at, it may not lead you per se down the same path, or you may not go through the same process to get to the place where you are going. We all have our individual process. We all are trying to be free from the things of not only this world, but also the things that we may think that is right, or we may see as, oh, I'm supposed to have this, or I'm supposed to do that, and it's just once again something that we see on TV that may not be happening in real life. But because we see on TV, we automatically think that this is how it's supposed to be. And so I believe that if we can get we can be free from those thoughts and those visions, then it will help us to say, okay, all right, how's my life supposed to be? What kind of process am I on? What kind of road am I going down so that I can be free, but not only free, I can walk fully into the purpose that's on my life, the assignment that God has for me. And when we get to that place, I believe it will open up doors that we never could imagine opening, because we are free. We are free from our own thoughts, and we are free from the thoughts of others, but the thoughts of how things supposed to be.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I often tell people that the way that you perceive a thing determines how you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the way that I think about this situation is going to determine how I'm going to respond and how I'm going to react while I'm in this situation. And so one of the key things in becoming kind of free from limitations is I have to perceive, I have to internalize, I have to look at it. My perspective has to be one of such that I don't have, or I may not have control of the way that this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Because I have to trust that this is going to be okay. And a lot of what we experience in life is control. We're trying to hold on to this. If I know that if I plan by, the next 2 years to do X, Y, and Z, and I've mapped this out, and I'm on this road, I'm on this path, I have control over that. Okay, and so the pandemic has kind of forced us to let go
Yeah.
of some stuff.
Yeah.
And that has been so uncomfortable for some of us because we're used to being able to have that control. We're used to being able to have that grasp. And so, again, that's why I said you've got to choose to enjoy
Mm-hmm.
this process. It's a choice every day or every moment by moment for some of us, okay? It's a choice to enjoy this process and to let go and to say, I trust where this space is taking me. One of the challenging questions, if you will, that I commonly ask people is, what is this space in your life trying to teach you? And are you learning the lesson?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good.
And it allows one to sit there and be like, okay, wait a minute. What's the lesson behind this?
Yeah.
And am I really learning or am I really applying what this space is trying to teach me? And again, that comes with the freedom. That's how you kind of get free
Yeah.
from your limits, and you kind of get free from yourself, along with watching what you say to yourself, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's typically the start of the process.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And that's good there. Um, one question that a lot of people ask is, how did I get here? How did I get to this space? How did I get to this place? Um, because for some of us, I believe that, and you can correct me from your standpoint, but I believe that if we know how we got here, to a certain degree, we will know how we can possibly make changes. Because for some of us, we may not know the reason why we are doing certain things, that it's because of something that might have taken place, in our past, or that maybe happened in our family that we never knew about. So a common question that is asked is, how did we get here? And I believe that is a question that, even now during this pandemic, we have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? And I like to say this a lot, what's the root? Because if we can figure out the root of it, then we can be able, if it needs to be uprooted, we can uproot it. Or if it needs to be watered, we can water it. If we need to cut down some weeds that's around it, we can cut down the weeds that's around it and still be able to be successful and grow. But if we don't know the cause of it, we will keep trying to cut weeds when we need to uproot it. We will keep trying to water it when it needs to be, we need to cut off the weeds. So I believe that's a prominent question. How did we get here? How did we end up here? You know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a very essential question, and that's one that various modalities of treatment and therapy help one navigate through into. Right. I'm a firm believer that yes, I need to get to the root of the cause. Right, so I might have a client that comes in and they might say, well, I suffer from depression, or I suffer from anxiety, and I like to, as those are diagnoses, right, I like to think of it as, well, that's the fruit of the tree. That's the fruit. So the fruit of whatever the root is this anxiety, is this depression. But what's the root? What's causing this? And sometimes it might be some trauma. It might be, things in our past. It might just be the way that, it might just be our outlook on situations. But it is most definitely essential to kind of pinpoint the root. And that right there alone, Henry, is a very sensitive moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sensitive process. because you may discover some things throughout trying to find what that root is that you may not have known or you may not have been prepared to address.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe sometimes the root is our interpersonal relationships. Well, now maybe I subliminally blame my mom or my dad or my family member or my friend for making me like this, or I subliminally blame my environment. I see myself as a victim instead of a victor of this, right? So there's a lot of reasons as to what can cause some behaviors and symptoms and things like that. And so again, it's a very sensitive process.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone that as you go through that journey, have someone to talk with. Have someone to help you process that.
Mm-hmm.
And if have someone, preferably a professional, help you navigate through that and help you uncover and then help wrap around, if you will, help close those spaces for you. Because again, that's sensitive. Confrontation of self is always sensitive.
Yes, very much so. And when confrontation of self is always a sensitive point, but is needed. It is needed, and when we see that and we look at it on the end, we say, okay, I understand it now. I didn't understand it then. I didn't care for it then, but now looking back on it, I understand it. I get it. I'm aware now, and so I believe that when we get to a place of just going back to where we all started back to, when we are able to speak it, we have to think it, speak it, believe it, and then speak it. As we're speaking it, and if our mind is there, everything else is going to follow down. Everything else is going to trickle down. So wherever our mind is, if our mind is in a depressed state, our body is going to follow along. We're going to be in a depressed state, But if our mind is saying is being encouraging and we're being uplifting, everything else we can say, I could get up tomorrow and I'm good to go. I'm going to make it through this day. I'm going to get to that place where I'm desiring to get to. But it all starts up here. It all starts in our mind, and once we get our mind together, everything else will follow. Everything else will follow. And that's why I believe, no matter what it is, no matter what the situation, it has to be mind over matter. Because, when it get to the place of being mind over matter, that means whatever we're saying in our mind, that's what's going to take place. That's what matters. That's what matters the most. And we have to understand that our mental health is very important. It's very important. No matter what, we believe in the word of God. Always. We believe in the word of God. But also we have to understand that we are spiritual beings living this natural life. That's what we are. So we still have to deal with the natural side of it while we're living this spiritual life. So if we need to go to therapy, go to therapy. If we need to seek out different kinds of counseling, seek out different kinds of counseling. But we have to say, I'm not doing this for nobody else but me. Because if I can deal and be able to face this myself, then I know everything else is going to follow. All of my relationship is going to follow. Everything that comes with it is going to follow because my mind is there. My mind is there.
Your mind is there. Yeah, and again, for some of us, that's a challenge, or that can be hard to get to that state. But just like you said, just as long as you're trying, get you some good social support. Get surrounded with like-minded people, or people who can encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
People who see the best in you and for you. Some people who will hold you accountable, right? So social support is huge. Speak is huge. And like you said, as believers, yes, we believe God. But one thing I love about therapy is that, see, therapy shows you the day-to-day application, or shows you how to do the day-to-day application, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, sometimes we're in church and we get this wonderful message, and our souls are fed and our heart is warm. But then we go home and we may not know how to necessarily apply that to our specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go to therapy, again, it's teaching you the kind of that, it breaks it down even further in some sense, okay? And it teaches you that day-to-day application of how to apply what you so believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you so believe. It shows you how to walk through and walk in, again, what you so believe. And it's always a good thing to be able to bounce that off of someone, to help to consult with someone who can help navigate you
Mm-hmm.
through those places. But it definitely does start in your mind. And I don't want people to feel like, well, if my mind is not as strong, then there must be something wrong.
Wrong.
Or
Yeah.
if my mind is not that strong, I'm not there yet in that process. My response to them is, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. I did kind of a segment a few weeks ago, and the title of that segment was, "It's okay to not be okay." It's okay to not be okay. It's okay that you are a believer in Christ and you don't feel okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
So free yourself from that. And I think that's another piece, especially, as believers, we feel like, because we believe in God and we believe in God's power, and if I admit that I feel some type of way, if I admit that I'm going through, if I admit that I'm not okay, that's going to be frowned upon.
Frowned upon. Yeah.
And the reality of it is, it's okay.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And so utilize the tools, utilize the resources, utilize the people that are there that can help you become even stronger. And then again, choose to enjoy your process.
Yes. Yes. And it's and we're gonna end this. But it's okay to not be okay. It is. And we want, like you said before, we want to see the fruit, but there's a process to seeing the fruit. And in order for us to see the fruit, to receive the fruit, we have to get to the place, we have to go through the process. We have to be okay with saying, all right, I'm not okay, but you know what? I'm going to go to therapy.
You gonna be it?
I'm going, I'm going to go to whatever I have to do to be okay. I'm going to do it and be willing to do it, and be okay that no matter, people may not understand it, they may talk about me, but it's okay. I got to do this for myself. I got to do this for myself. And if I don't do it for myself, the question I always ask is, who's going to do it?
Who's going to do it then? Who's going to invest in you?
Who's going to invest in you? Yes, yes. And so, with that being said, Charisma, I thank you. Before we close out, I would like to ask if there are any questions. You can type them in the comment section now, before we close out. But Charisma, I thank you for taking out this time to join me in this discussion. I believe this is a discussion that is much needed, not just for right now, but for life, for life, because even though we're living in an unprecedented time, when things happen, it's unprecedented always, because to us it's something that we haven't dealt with, we haven't been through, and even though we've been through, we might have lost a loved one, but the loved one we just lost, we might have had a different relationship with them. So once again, we haven't been through this process. So everything that we go through is unprecedented, because it's nothing, never is anything that we go through the same, because we're ever changing, we're ever growing, we're ever, finding out different ways to make it through the process. Make it through the process. So, it's great for us to come and to have this conversation and be truthful about it, especially from the spiritual aspect, but also the natural aspect as well, because we do look at it and we say, okay, because you're in the church, you're supposed to have it all together. Because you're in the church, you aren't supposed to go to therapy. You aren't supposed to have a counselor.
That's so unfortunate.
And that is so unfortunate. And it adds more pressure to pressure that we're already feeling, But we're here to stop that notion and to say it is okay. It is okay to go to counseling. It is okay to see a therapist. No matter where you are, pray and seek God. If you need to go to counseling, pray and seek God about who to go to, and then follow that path. And when you go, be transparent, be open. And if for some of us we aren't comfortable with opening up to other people, and that's okay too. And it may take a while, but as long as you're taking that step to go through with it, that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters.
As long as you start, as long as you start, and I would end this with this notion. I often tell people, especially when I'm doing spiritual counseling, we love the term supernatural. Well, God's supernatural power is going to give us. God's supernatural power is going to do this. But if we break down the word super and natural, right, and so our duty is to do the natural, and God's duty is to do the super. And so without your natural part, maybe without you taking that step to go see somebody, or taking that step to get some help, taking that step to try to be better, he's not able to put his super on that.
That's true.
So I encourage people all the time, again, try. It's okay. It's okay. You can try, take it step by step, but the try is what God honors.
Yeah.
The try is what causes his superpower to be on your natural, for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love to say. As long as you're doing your best, God is going to do the rest. And you have to trust and believe that. And when you know that, and I laugh about it because that's the whole thing. When I was, when we was at Central and going through the classes, especially my senior year, having four math classes, I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna just do my best, and I know you take care of the rest. And and we go with that mindset, then we'll say, okay, as long as I'm doing my part, God is always going to do his part. He's going to always do his part, but he's waiting on us to do our part first. And when we do our part first, I promise you, God will show up. God will show up, and he will show up mighty. He will blow our minds, as I like to say. He will blow our minds and open up doors that we never could imagine. We never could imagine. So before we close, are there any other closing remarks or comments you have? While you're doing that, also share with people how can they connect with you, how they can come in contact with you. Maybe there's a question, maybe they just need someone to talk to. So how can they connect with you?
Yeah, most definitely. So you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. You can connect with me at Charismatic Care LLC. That's the name of the pages. I do have a website, which is charismaticcare.net. You can go on the website. You can submit questions or comments, or you can decide to submit your name and or anonymously, and I will definitely get back with you. If you maybe need a referral to maybe some therapists in your area, please feel free to shoot me, DM me or message on my page, and we most definitely can get you connected to someone in your area, or maybe you might need some guidance. Just please feel free to reach out at any given point. You also can email me at charismaticcare@gmail.com.
Okay. So once again, we thank you, Charisma, for joining us on tonight on the Preacher Circle podcast. We pray that God will continue to bless you in your endeavors, bless your career, bless whatever you put your hands to, that He would just bless it tremendously and honor everything that you have said in your desire to do. People, my brothers and sisters, we thank you for joining us as well. Once again, if you have any questions, you have any comments, feel free to connect with Charisma. Also, feel free to connect with me, Henry Scott, on Facebook. And even then, if you have any questions or comment, you can message me to my Facebook page. But you also can go in and comment under here, and we will definitely answer your questions. If you have any comments or anything, you still can feel free to submit those comments as well. Share this live with someone who may need to know, and let them know that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And as long as you're on the path and going through the process, you know that you're going down the right path. You're going down the right way. So once again, we thank you all for joining us on the Preacher's Circle podcast, and we will be back in 2 weeks. On next week, we'll have our dinner and discussion Bible study, which we're asking that you will join in on that as well, starting next Thursday. And we're gonna update the time. We've been doing 8 o'clock, but we're gonna update the time to 7:30 on next week for the dinner and discussion Bible study. So join us and tune in next week. And until then, we pray that God will continue to bless you, and may heaven keep you.